Hello, grade 12s, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a part of genetics that can sometimes be a little tricky in exams: incomplete dominance. But trust me, by the end of this, you're going to feel so much more confident about any question they throw at you. So let's jump right in. So here's our game plan. First, we'll figure out what incomplete dominance actually is and how it's different from what you already know. Then, and this is super important, we'll talk about using the right symbols. This is where so many easy marks get lost in paper 2. After that, we'll walk through a classic example, tackle a real CAP-style question, and then wrap up with the key things you absolutely have to remember for your finals. All right, first up, what on earth is incomplete dominance? You spent a lot of time learning about Mendel's rules, right? The basic laws of genetics. Well, think of this as one of nature's fascinating little plot twists, a rule breaker that doesn't quite play by those simple dominant and recessive patterns. I want you to really think about this for a second. Everything you've learned so far tells you that if a red flower and a white flower cross, their babies should be red, or maybe white, depending on which one is dominant. So where does pink come from? It seems impossible, right? Well, that's the exact puzzle that incomplete dominance is here to solve. Okay, here is the official definition. You might want to jot this down. Incomplete dominance is what happens when one allele isn't completely in charge of the other one. Neither one wins, so instead of one masking the other, they kind of mix together. And the result? A third, totally new phenotype that's an intermediate blend of the parents. The key word you have to remember here is blend. It's just like mixing red and white paint. You get pink. Simple as that. Now let's put these two ideas side by side because this is where the confusion usually happens. On the left, that's complete dominance, the genetics you know and love. A big T for tall completely hides the little t for short, so the TT plant is just tall. End of story. But look at the right. With incomplete dominance, neither allele is the boss. They cooperate, they blend. A red allele and a white allele come together, and you don't get red or white, you get a brand new blended phenotype, pink. Understanding this difference is absolutely crucial. Okay, moving on. This next part might seem like a tiny detail, but I promise you it is one of the easiest ways to get full marks in an exam. And it's also one of the easiest ways to lose them if you're not careful. Listen up. This is non-negotiable for your exams. Because neither allele is dominant, you cannot, I repeat, cannot use a capital and a lowercase letter like big R and little r. That automatically tells the examiner you think one is dominant. Big mistake. Instead, we have to show that they are equally important, so we use two different capital letters. For example, a capital R for the red allele and a capital W for the white allele. This is the correct way, and it's what examiners are looking for. All right, now for the fun stuff. Let's put this into practice with the most famous example out there, the snapdragon flower. We're going to walk through this nice and slow, step by step, exactly how you should lay it out in your exam paper. Okay, let's start at the beginning, with the parent generation, or P1. The phenotype is a homozygous red flower crossing with a homozygous white flower. Now, using our correct symbols, their genotypes have to be RR and WW. Easy enough. Through meiosis, the red parent can only make gametes with an R allele, and the white parent can only make gametes with a W allele. So, when they cross, every single one of their offspring, the F1 generation, will have the genotype RW. And what's their phenotype? You guessed it, 100% pink, the blend. So what happens if we take two of those pink F1 flowers and cross them with each other? Our cross is now RW times RW. Let's pump this into a Punnett square to see all the possibilities for the F2 generation. We put the gametes from one parent, R and W, across the top, and the gametes from the other parent, also R and W, down the side. Now we just fill in the boxes. R from the top and R from the side gives us RR. R from the top and W from the side gives RW. Then we have W from the side and R from the top. That's also RW. And finally, W and W gives us WW. Done. Now, let's look at what our Punnett square is telling us. For the genotypes, we've got one RR, two RWs, and one WW. So our genotypic ratio is 1 to 2 to 1. Now for the phenotypes. Well, RR is red, the two RWs are pink, and the WW is white. That gives us a phenotypic ratio of 1 red to 2 pink to 1 white. And here it is, the single most important clue you will ever get for this topic. In incomplete dominance, the genotypic ratio and the phenotypic ratio are exactly the same, 1 to 2 to 1. And here's a great way to visualize that. You can clearly see 1 part red, 2 parts pink, and 1 part white. Now think back. This is completely different from that classic 3-to-1 phenotypic ratio you get in a simple Mendelian cross, isn't it? Seeing a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio is a massive hint that you're dealing with an incomplete dominance problem.
Okay, you've seen the theory, you've seen the worked example. Now it's your turn. Let's see if you can apply what you've learned to a typical exam-style question.
Right. Here's the problem. You've got 2 gray mice. They have babies. And those babies are not just gray. Some are black and some are white. The question is, how is that possible? Now, what's the giant clue here? You're getting 3 different colors. You're getting an intermediate color, gray, from the parents. That should be setting off alarm bells in your head that say incomplete dominance. Black and white are the original traits, and gray is the blend. So, what I want you to do is pause this explainer right here and actually try to answer this on a piece of paper. And please, remember to lay out your answer properly using the standard genetic cross format: P1, genotype, meiosis, gametes, fertilization, F1, etc. That structure is what gets you all the marks. Go on, give it a shot. Okay, are you ready? Let's check the solution. For full marks, this is how you'd set it up. P1 phenotype, gray mouse x gray mouse. P1 genotype has to be BW x BW because gray is that blended intermediate color. After meiosis, both parents produce gametes with either a B or a W allele. A Punnett square would then show the F1 genotypes are 1BB, 2BW, and 1WW. And finally, the F1 phenotype. This gives us a ratio of 1 black mouse to 2 gray mice to 1 white mouse. And that perfectly explains how 2 gray parents can have babies of 3 different colors. If you got that, fantastic work. We are just about done. Before we finish, let's lock in the most important points, the things you absolutely must take with you into that exam hall. Please, please, please avoid these common mistakes. These are the errors that learners make year after year. First, do not use a big letter and a small letter. Use 2 different capital letters. Second, the phenotypic ratio is 1 to 2 to 1, not 3 to 1. Third, always remember to name that new blended phenotype, the pink, the gray, whatever it is. And finally, don't mix this up with codominance. Codominance is when both traits show up, like spots. Incomplete dominance is when they blend. They are not the same thing. So, if there is one thing you remember from today, let it be this. If you're in an exam and you see a question about a genetic cross that gives you 3 phenotypes and a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio, it's a giant flashing sign. The answer is about incomplete dominance. It's the biggest clue they can possibly give you because the genotypic and the phenotypic ratios are the same. Keep practicing these and you will nail it. You've got this.